Millings up to Clark. Clark takes her first shot. Finds herself down low, kicks it out to Caitlin Clark. Clark puts it up. Getting themselves prepared for the World Cup that they've already qualified for, but really not letting their foot off the glass on offense.
Forget everything the mainstream sports media wants you to believe. They've spent years building a polished story, carefully protecting the fragile egos of a fading establishment. Look at the box score from this return game. Watch the sanitized press conferences. Listen to the polite, carefully worded commentary. What you're seeing is a story designed to deceive, a narrative that is deeply insulting and fundamentally dishonest. They want you to think that keeping Caitlin Clark on the bench at tip-off was a strategic move, a respectful nod to the veterans, a gentle way to ease her back after 200 days off. That's not strategy. That's organizational malpractice in its most desperate form. What really happened was an attempt by the old guard of women's basketball to delay the inevitable, trying to hold back the complete takeover of the league by an unstoppable force. Chelsea Gray and the so-called bold guard started the game, not because they offered a better chance to win, but because the establishment was terrified of the undeniable truth. Caitlin Clark is a transformative, unstoppable, economic juggernaut on the court. When she finally stepped onto the hardwood after 6 months in the shadows, recovering, recalibrating, watching the league struggle without her, the results were nothing short of terrifying. This wasn't a return. This was a statement. A brutal reminder that the fate of an entire sport can pivot around a single player. And the numbers? They are staggering. 17 points, 12 assists, a plus 35 rating, all in politically limited, heavily restricted minutes. You don't hit a plus 35 rating just by playing well. That's achieved by bending the very geometry of the court, controlling the flow of the game, and forcing defenses to respond to threats they haven't even seen yet. Clark isn't just assisting teammates out of unselfishness, she's commanding the half-court like a high-level strategist. Each assist is precision-engineered, lifting inefficient or struggling players, turning them into highly productive assets. The team moves as a single, synchronized machine under her influence. Starting her on the bench is like locking a revolutionary AI in a basement because middle management is scared of losing their jobs. This game wasn't just a performance, it was a blueprint for total domination, an unmissable demonstration of what happens when a singular force in sports is finally unleashed.
To what Caitlin Clark is going to do in year 3, you know what? I don't blame Breanna Stewart, Brianna Turner, Nafisa Collier, Aneka Ogwumike if they say themselves, we can't get beat like this. This girl is coming for revenge.
You can feel the panic in every word of that analysis. I don't blame Breanna Stewart, Brianna Turner, or Nafisa Collier. Ask them honestly, and they'll admit it, we can't beat her like this. This is the psychological warfare nobody wants to put on the national broadcast, but it's real. The superstars who've spent years building their legacies, the accolades, the endorsements, the carefully crafted reputations, are suddenly facing the harsh reality of irrelevance. Stewart and Collier are generational talents, no question. But they play inside the old rules. Caitlin Clark doesn't follow rules, she destroys them, clears the court, and builds something entirely new on top. When teams watch the tape from this game, they're not scouting for weaknesses, they're confronting their own downfall. A player who's been off for 200 days comes back sharp, precise, unstoppable, sending cross-court passes that human biomechanics can't even defend. Make no mistake, year 3 isn't about competition anymore. It's a violent, calculated reckoning. Any team that didn't rethink their defense in the offseason is already on the losing side. By mid-July, the gaps will be brutal. And let's not ignore the locker room politics that made this possible. Caitlin Clark, a generational talent, was treated like a bench player while Chelsea Gray, a veteran with a decorated history, started the game. Experience and resume mean nothing if you can't keep up with the new pace. True leadership isn't about holding a spot because of past glory. It's about recognizing the seismic shifts in the game and stepping aside when the era has moved forward.
Clearly the best player. The team, if you can believe it, looked night and day. Clark on the floor, Clark on the bench. Clark on the floor, ball's moving, pace is flowing, Clark on the bench.
Take a look at the numbers, and it's painfully clear. When Clark is on the floor, the game moves like lightning. Balls zip around, the pace is relentless, and every possession feels alive. Take her off, put her on the bench, and suddenly it's night and day. The offense slows, becomes predictable, easy to read, and painfully methodical. Half-court sets drag. Defenses have all the time they need to breathe, reset, and plan. Then Clark crosses the line. The speed of the game skyrockets. Transition offense turns into a weapon. The ball moves like it's guided by an algorithm, hitting the open shooter or rolling big before the defense even knows what's happening. Watching this, you can't help but be stunned by the coaching staff's choice to sit her. It's staggering. Political optics and locker room politics are being prioritized over pure offensive dominance. It's the textbook way massive corporations fail, refusing to embrace new technology because they're too attached to the systems that worked in the past. Now let's talk about the economic reality for the veterans. Chelsea Gray and the old guard know exactly what's happening. They see it in the geometry of the floor. They feel the energy drain from the building when Clark is on the bench. And the second she steps back in, the atmosphere shifts. The entire game feels heavier, faster, and unstoppable. They aren't blind. They can sense it in every possession.
You know what a real vet would do? A real vet would say, you know what? Here's my spot. I ain't competing with that. You know what? We're a better team if you take my spot and I try to fit in where I can.
Imagine this. A true veteran would simply step back and say, "Here, this is my spot. I'm not fighting that." That's the heart of the whole power struggle. The older players are clinging desperately to control, trying to steer a vehicle that's already being launched into the stratosphere by an engine they can't touch. Instead of taking on the role of a guiding mentor for the second unit, they insist on staying front and center, and the result is a chaotic, turnover-filled, completely disjointed opening quarter. The real heartbreak. The coaching staff doesn't have the guts to confront these veterans and reclaim the authority that should belong to the future. They're letting the fragile egos of yesterday sabotage the limitless potential of today. Then Clark steps onto the floor. Right away, she executes a flawless pick and roll with Monique Billings. That basket isn't just points, it's a full-blown indictment of the starting lineup decision. Clark makes everything look absurdly simple because she reads defenses at a speed the legacy players can't even register. But her impact isn't just personal stats. The moment she's distributing the ball, everyone around her gets better. Angel Rhee, Ryan Howard, Paige Buchers, Kiki Yuri-Fan, they all suddenly look like entirely different players offensively. Take Angel Rhee, for example. Media narratives love to spin this rivalry with Clark like only one can succeed. But watch the uncut footage, and it's terrifying for the rest of the league. When Clark and Rhee are sharing the floor, their pick and roll synergy is devastating. Clark draws double teams with her shooting gravity, and then effortlessly lobs it to a rolling Angel Rhee, leaving defenses scrambling and fans in awe. It's unstoppable. Clark takes Rhee's physical, rebound-heavy style and turns it into a precision weapon with perfect spacing and surgical passing. Then add Paige Buchers into the mix. The moment Clark and Buchers share the backcourt, this is no longer just a basketball game, you're witnessing a full-blown offensive masterclass. Defenses can't collapse on Clark because Buchers is waiting on the perimeter, ready to strike. They can't pressure Buchers because Clark is already relocating, ready to drill a deep, soul-crushing three. It's an impossible equation. Clark elevates everyone around her, making their production skyrocket, and yet she starts on the bench. Strategically, financially, it makes no sense. None. Here's the cold, harsh truth. This performance isn't just a glimpse of what's to come this season. It's proof of what really happened back in the summer of 2024. The mainstream basketball world told US Clark was left off the Olympic roster for rest, for lack of experience, for not being ready for international play. Lies? Every excuse was carefully crafted to protect the old guard's fragile legacies from being completely overshadowed. Make no mistake, Clark would have dominated. She would have taken control. The story we're seeing now is exactly what would have unfolded on the global stage. She doesn't wait her turn. She seizes the moment and makes everyone else irrelevant. And that terrifies the people in charge, the selection committees, the sponsors. They knew that if she played, the spotlight would shift entirely from the established veterans to the undeniable new queen of the game. They didn't bench her to protect her. They benched her to protect themselves. Her impact threatened to expose inefficiencies in the players they'd spent years promoting. But you cannot hold back a force of nature forever. 200 days on the sidelines are over. The vengeance she brings to the court is overwhelming. Polite negotiations. Locker room diplomacy. Done. Every second Clark sits is wasted opportunity, stolen excitement, and tactical malpractice. Everyone sees it, the fans, the opponents, even the veterans in their quiet doubts. The hierarchy is gone. Shattered. Clark drops a 17-assist, 35-point performance while barely breaking a sweat, proving one thing: you don't ease the apex predator into the ecosystem. You unleash her, and let the rest figure out how to survive. This is the new era of professional basketball. The slow, methodical, veteran-dominated half-court game is over. The future belongs to speed, space, and the unstoppable force of Caitlin Clark. She doesn't just play basketball, she sets the market, dictates the tempo, determines the value of every asset on the floor. If the coaching staff doesn't make her the unquestioned focal point, they're not just making a bad basketball choice, they're committing organizational sabotage. The reckoning isn't coming, it's already here, sitting on the bench, ready to dismantle everything you thought you knew about the game. Start her now, or face the consequences of standing in the path of a freight train with no brakes. The era has shifted. The takeover is complete. And Caitlin Clark holds every share of the court.